I shall call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We shall have roll call, please, Carolina.
Councilmember Wells,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting, September 24th. Once again, we shall start with Mayor Waller's quote for the day. This one comes from Jim Rohn. He happens to be a motivational speaker and author. The challenge of leadership is to be strong but not rude, be kind but not weak, be bold but not bully, be thoughtful but not lazy, be humble but not timid, be proud but not arrogant, have humor but without folly. If you've never read any of his books, he's a good read. He does a lot of books on motivational speaking, leadership, time management, that kind of stuff. Okay, we shall move on to approval of tonight's agenda. I will be looking for a motion to approve, and I'll entertain any additions or corrections before we go to the motion.
I think we need to put I thought it was on there, the budget resolution. There's the preliminary tax levy, but you also need the resolution for the budget.
Okay, so that'll be down under, let's see, ordinances, resolutions, item C then?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to add an item C, resolution adopting the preliminary 2025 budget for the city of Morris. Yeah, and she just,
I will move approval of the agenda with the addition of item XC, or 5C.
okay,
I will second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we have the citizens' comments portion of the meeting, and this is the point in the meeting where we allow members of the community to come and approach the council. And I think what I may do is start with Jim. If you wanted to come first, Cheryl, I'll just have to have you hold tight for a bit. Just approach the mic, Jim, and just introduce yourself, state where you live, and it's for the people in the audience, and the listening audience, I guess.
My name is Jim Pugh. I live at 17 Sunny Slope Road here in Morris. I asked Kevin about potentially making a presentation tonight, and I want to address these remarks to Rebecca. After watching the September 10th City Council meeting online, I feel you made a statement to the council that misrepresented the contacts that I've had with you regarding the property at West 11th Street. You stated they have not contacted me, and I didn't hear from him. I left you a voicemail on August 12th that you did not return my phone call. On August 22nd, because I was not hearing back from you, I sent an email to the council members and CC'd you. Still, I did not hear from you. Mr. Miller, at the September 10th council meeting, indicated he would give you my contact information following that meeting. I sent an email to you on September 19th, requesting that you respond to some questions. I had asked you to contact me before this council meeting took place. I've not heard back from you. So, if you say you've had no contact from me, that's not correct. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, thanks for coming in. Cheryl, I guess you're up next.
All right.
This feels like I'm walking behind.
She's
you.
going to give us an update
Can
from
you
the
move that
SEIC and the listening audience.
So good evening, I'm Cheryl Kuhn. I'm the Executive Director of the Stevens County Economic Improvement Commission. And I always give a little bit of an update a couple times a year, but just for understanding, the Stevens County Economic Improvement Commission is the economic development arm for the Stevens County and then also for each of the cities in the county. The cities each have some have a small economic development arm that they function in, but overall they work with us to do economic development across the county. We have a 15-member board, and that member board, there's a representative from each of the cities within the county if they so choose to be there. So Mayor Wallers and then also Becca sit on our board. We also have representation from the county, so we have a County Commissioner Wallers, and then so we have 2 Wallers on our board actually, and then we also have Becky, the county administrator. We have each of the, because we do, and we'll talk about that, run loans for commercial development and businesses within the county. We have each of the banks in the county that sit on our board and act as our loan committee, plus 1 non-loan member that sit on our loan committee to make those kinds of decisions. Ottertail Power is also on our board, and we also have Morrison Associates on our board. So it's a nice board when we all get together to work through some of the things that come up in economic development. And economic development is commercial development. We do a lot of business coaching. So as I think I've said this last year, somebody might come in and they'll say, Cheryl, I want to start a business. What does the community need that I live in? And we'll talk from that point on. And we may lend to them. They may just need some support as they go along. How do I register with the Secretary of State? How do I organize my business? How do I build a business plan? So we go ahead in our office and we do all of those things to help that individual start a business. We also work with major businesses in our county for business expansions. We work with workforce retention, and we do a lot of business retention ourselves, trying to find people's pain points before it comes to the point where they're going to have to close their doors. And we do that financial analysis, sometimes it's workforce analysis, whatever it is. So underneath that, helping businesses, our tagline is we do business with you. So what is it that you need from us? You know, if you come in with something that we don't know, then we connect you to federal and state supports that can help you. We are a small but really moving staff. So it's myself full time, and then we have 1 30-hour-a-week office manager. So we're 1.75 FTE. And so we're running a lot and doing a lot for the county, which we're really proud about the work that we do. So the city of Morris, I think, fiscal year 2024 gave us $33,000, right? So we're really cognizant of that investment into our organization. So what did you get back from your investment into our organization as your economic development arm? So currently, in just the last year, we've retained many more jobs in this, but through our direct work, we retained 13 jobs in the county. We expanded to 16 new jobs in the county this year. We've got 4 loans out totaling $333,000, which leveraged $1.73 million of economic growth in our communities. We've got 2 loans that paid off, and we are currently managing a book of 22 loans, and those businesses support 139 jobs across our county. We've worked with over 30 businesses, so you have the work that we do in business lending. You just got that. But a lot of our work is done, as like I was saying, I'm not sure what's going on in my business, right? And can you help me with it? I can't quite make this bill meet, or I want to expand this way, or workforce, or childcare, or housing. Some of you were at the housing thing, and we work in that as well. So last year we worked with over 30 businesses. And because of that, and interesting things, maybe it's logo design. We had a tank that was discovered at a business, and so we connected them to the Petro Fund, which then paid to have that tank removed, and then the MPCA is working through, and we assisted them. Those are big grants, and we assisted them with those grants. We've also assisted 3 other businesses with grants to assist them in growing their business or whatever that would be. Main Street, we've talked about that already, but I can finally talk openly about it. So we had the $1.2 million that we received in Morris, and we had to identify that corridor, right? Shaking heads, following me? Okay, good, good. So I can actually say now, so the recipients of those, of that $1.2 million grant that we wrote in our office was Jerry's U Save, the Hudson Inn, John's Total Entertainment, Unger's, Inherit, Kangas, China Panda, and Taco John's. And so you've seen some of that, right? You've seen some of the work up and down Main Street. And I just reached out yesterday, and there's another $5 million at the state of Minnesota, and we're hoping to capture some of that because we do have 6 other businesses waiting in the wings now that they know how these funds can be used. Let's see, we wrote and were awarded $130,000 in Small Business Assistant Partnership Grant. That grant pays us to do some of our business coaching that we do. We also wrote and were awarded a $6,000 technology grant when one of us staff members had to go out for an illness so that they could work from home. We do, I don't know, so sometimes, and I don't know if I've done it a whole lot, but with planning and zoning, a lot of times businesses are saying, sure, what's our economic impact? And can you analyze that? So I work with the state of Minnesota and I run economic impact analysis. So let's just say, so what that looks like is my business is going to expand, or we're going to start a new business. What does that look like? What is that impact that that business has? So what we do in our office is we break that down. During the construction phase, you're paying people to do the work, right? So that's the direct piece of it. The indirect piece of it is then as they come out into our communities and they buy groceries and they go to restaurants, and that whole economic generator goes, right? So we can capture that through some analysis software that they have at the state, and then help out in some of that planning and zoning that goes on and some of those decisions that cities and counties have to make. Let's see. An interesting thing for you guys, and I think I'll stop right now because this is just this is more interesting. So I brought a little history with me. So in 2024, the city of Morris had $481,430.85 to be lent out to businesses for economic development. In 2014, so what you need to know about those dollars when they're first there and when you had them, and I think the reason they gave them to my organization is that the regulations in order to give those dollars out are 800 pages long. So they're not easy dollars to give out. We're experienced at it now. So we basically received $238,000 and some odd cents in cash into our organization to become your local development organization. And then in loans, we received outstanding loan payments. So they were lent out to businesses and still owed back to us of $242,000. So that's your total of the 481. An interesting number that I did is, so in the 10 years, since we're at 10 years right now, not quite, but close, we currently have 7 loans lent out, and those loans outstanding, if they paid them back today, are $690,000. And we have $158 in cash balance that's already committed to a loan, but it hasn't been lent out yet. So basically all of your funds are committed or lent out. So that $481 that was transferred to us has been lent out, revolved, and currently has a balance of $848,236.12. And so it's been nice to be able to grow those funds and be good stewards of those funds on behalf of the city of Morris. Let's see here. We did some economic impact studies for our organization, and with the loans that we've run over the years, we've had over $60 million in economic impact across Stevens County. And that's a low estimate because that's direct, right? That's so because we are gap financers. If a loan deal can't get done and they need $200,000 and somebody to take a riskier position, that's where we step in. So our $200,000 then leveraged $1 million, right? That's how we calculate that number. So we're about $60 million right now in leveraged dollars, which is a nice thing that we've done. Let's see. And so how in the heck, Cheryl, do you know how to do this? Well, my background is in commercial lending and community development. I also am a certified professional county economic developer. And then I really keep my fingers really deeply into all the things that are going along around in the state and at the federal level. And that's our job, our role, our responsibility, because it's a lot to manage. And so we have to figure that out so we can find the best for our citizens in our community. So when we do that, Economic Development Association of Minnesota, I'm a member. I am on the executive team for the Minnesota Association of Professional Economic Developers, so those that do my same work across the state. I'm also a part of the regional board through West Central Initiative, and I'm on the Small Business Development Center Advisory Board. So I have a lot of colleagues behind me that help me, right, to know what I'm doing with my job. Oh, and I think that's enough. So basically last year for fiscal year, as I said, we asked for $33,000, which you gave us. We're asking for a $1,000 increase this year to $34,000. And I guess with that, there's a few more things, but I think that's enough. Any questions?
Cheryl, when you talked about, what did you get, what we get back, and you talked about so many retained jobs, what does that mean?
Well, that, like a retained job means that if we had not lent or I had not done my business coaching, those jobs would not exist.
Okay.
And expanded jobs are businesses that are expanding, and through our lending or our coaching, they were able to expand, so retain those jobs.
Figured that it was the retained jobs, and I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, because I would rather come in and help a business that's struggling to retain that business here than have them go bankrupt and work on what I'm working on a lot of right now is some succession planning for some businesses that didn't make it, but then also businesses that are trying to sell to new owners as well. So a business that is wanting to sell to a new owner, when we can get in there and have that sale go through, we retain those jobs and oftentimes expand them.
Thanks for clarifying.
Oh, you bet.
Well, I guess I can speak from experience. When I bought Taco John's back in 2007, I would not have been able to purchase that restaurant if it wouldn't have been for the gap financing that SCIC helped provide. So I guess in a roundabout way, I can thank you for that wonderful experience I had.
And that's the hardest thing. It's the best and hardest thing of my job. So today it happened twice. Somebody came up and said, "Did you know?" And I had to say, "I have no idea what you're talking about," right? Because I can't speak about it because the work we do is confidential unless it's been released. And so that's, I could release a few of the things that we've done this evening with you.
But you know, really, it's important to know, because some of these businesses might not be in existence if it wasn't for the assistance of the SCIC. So that's a very valuable tool that's available for anybody out there that's considering getting into business for themselves, and you're trying to figure out, you know, the dollars and cents.
Come see
She's
us.
the one you got to come and see.
Yep, that's what we do every day. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Before we move on, this is, I guess, more for the benefit of the listening audience. Just want to speak to Jim. Jim had come up and approached the council just to provide a little backdrop that the issue that he's referring to is a junk and debris issue that I guess we've been kind of talking about for the last few months. So so everybody can kind of understand out there what he was talking about, that's kind of the issue at hand. But we're, I guess.
And it's going to court in November, so
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot we can do until
Right.
that happens.
So I just, you know, for what it's worth, Jim, we are working on it, but, you know, I think to your point, we maybe could get a little better at following up, and if there's no action, we should probably at least address that too. And if we don't have an immediate resolve, I think the unknown, I think if I hear what you're saying, is just the not knowing of where you're at probably is what it concerns you probably more than anything. So I guess if there's a takeaway from that, that would probably be what we could address and work on. So
Would you be able to expand a little bit on the court action? I don't know what that is.
We gave him a junk ordinance violation. He didn't do anything with it, so the police gave a citation. He's fighting it, and I think it's November 4th.
One of the questions I emailed you the last one was, who enforces it? We don't have a police department, so.
We don't. So the first letter comes from our Public Works Director. And then after that, if nothing happens, and it goes to see if the sheriff's office can help us mitigate the problem.
Okay.
And our city attorney has been working
Yep,
On
he's
it
been working on
with
things too, yep.
law enforcement and with the city.
Yeah, I can understand your frustrations because it, you know, in my mind, it seems like it should be moving along faster, but it just, sometimes things don't move as quickly as we'd like. Appreciate your patience though, Jim. And communicate that to your neighbors too, if you would, please.
That's why I asked the question. I'm not here, someone
Yep.
wanted to come, we're out of town.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in, because that's what we're here for, to hear from people like yourself, so I appreciate you coming in. Okay, we have a public hearing tonight. Before we get into that, I'll open and close the public hearing. I just want to establish a few ground rules for public hearings. As most everybody here at council knows, this is the second reading tonight, and ordinances need to be introduced, which is our first reading, and they need to be adopted, which is the second reading. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We'll be adopting that public hearing. After the public hearing, we will be adopting the second reading of ordinance number 126, an ordinance amending the City of Morris zoning map. So again, during the public hearing portion of the meeting, they call it a public hearing for a reason. That's where the council gets to listen to anybody that has and wants to speak to the issue at hand. And we do these, we have public hearings for a reason, so the community at large can come in, maybe express any issues or concerns they may have. They may want some clarifications. They may want to give recommendations to the council, and if you consider alternatives, things like that. That's why we have public hearings. So that being said, I will open the public hearing and the second reading of ordinance number 126. So if anybody would like to come and speak to that ordinance, now would be the time. I see no one in attendance, it appears, that's going to speak on that that second reading. So I guess with that, I will close the public hearing, and then I will bring it back to City Council to, if you have any final thoughts or questions on it, now would be the time for that.
Just again for clarification, that's that piece of property right
It's that-
by the overpass,
Yep.
right up
Correct.
next to
That
it.
triangle piece
Yep.
right by the
The
overpass.
horse,
Yep.
Mhm.
okay, that's why I just wanted to clarify, I thought that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, some of those that were directly affected came to planning commission and voiced support for it. They're
Mhm.
fully in favor.
And we didn't get any written opposition, I'd assume, at City Hall, because sometimes people will do that. They'll send a letter or something like that, and I don't believe we've received any, so. Okay. Any other further questions or discussion on that ordinance? Hearing none, I will ask for, I'll just ask for a roll call vote on that second reading. Carolina,
I think we need a motion
We need a
and a
motion.
second.
we need a
first.
motion first, I'm sorry, yes, I got ahead of my skis again, sorry about that. Well, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I will move approval of ordinance number 126, amending the City of Morris zoning map.
I'll second.
There we go, thank you. Now we have a motion and a second. Now I can ask for that roll call vote on that, please. Carolina?
Councilmember Rose,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Cullickson,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Okay. We shall move on. The next item up on our agenda for tonight is the reading and approval of our regular meeting minutes from September 10th, 2024.
I will move approval of our regular minutes from our 9/10/24 meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the September 10th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And now we have the condensed version of the meeting minutes for the paper from September 10th, 2024.
I'll move approval of the condensed version minutes of September 10th, 2024.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the September 10th, 2024 condensed version of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we shall move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the audit of city bills, pay estimate number 3 to Joe Riley Construction, 2023 GA apron reconstruction and expansion. And then we have pay estimate number 3 final for Joe Riley Construction. That's the taxi lane reconstruction and taxiway crack seal. And then item D, which is August 14th, City of Morris Public Library Board meeting minutes. And then we also have the September 11th, 2024 Park Board meeting minutes. And then item F is the gambling reports. And then the last item is an application for exempt permit for Stevens County Ducks Unlimited. And I guess I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. I will then now bring it over back to the council for discussion. Any items on the consent agenda you would like to speak to? Now is a good time for that. So the taxi lane and all that work out there is all done now, pretty much then, right?
Yep.
Just when we think we're done, we're done.
One
For now.
project done.
So it seems like there's always something with the airport though, doesn't it?
Line item 33, just a reimbursement for the Dutch elm treatment. Have we allotted so much for the year, or?
Yeah, there's some in the budget, maybe a couple thousand, and if people come to us with reimbursement, it's maybe 2 or 3 a year, some years
Okay.
less, but they get a percentage back of what they pay.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on any of the other items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve. I shall ask for a voice vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, we have no petitions, requests, or communications. So we will move on to the next item up is ordinances and resolutions. And now we have 3 to work on. Our first one is a resolution approving the preliminary 2024 tax levy for collection in 2025. So I'll let City Manager Schrupp speak to that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk budget, even though you're gonna be approving that later, but just so we can kind of go through the levy and what was needed. So at our budget work session, we looked at setting the 7.1% budget levy. Some of that was in order to help fund the library a little bit more. So that, as we look at our budget, The final levy will probably be able to bring it down some, but we'll start at that 7.1. So with the budget, I gave you each where we're sitting. So our general fund budget has gone up about a little over 5%, about 5%. But in total, our whole city levy or city budget has gone down about 7%. And that's due to a couple bonds that have been finished and finalized. So why the increase in the general fund? A lot of it has to do with wages and insurance. We did get our final insurance numbers, which are about 12%, which was a lot less than what we were thinking. The contract with the county for policing has gone up, and we're still in talks with them about that. We did put in there 3% increase for our assessing. The attorney, both of those are contracts that we still have until next year, but a 3% for the SCEIC and community ed. And then we also added that motor grader lease into the budget for the next 5 years. So changes from our budget workshop, the library budget, with how we're putting wages and insurance in there and things. We did have to increase the local government aid about $12,000 from what we had talked about prior. So before our final levy, we'll look at different ways to lower that 7.1, hopefully down to about, I think we're looking at about that 4, a little over 4, to make sure it works with the library fund. We'll have our utility rate study done by then, so we'll know kind of where our utilities sit at, what our increases need to be, and set their budgets get a little more nitpicky with them. And then we'll have our wage study complete. So at the next meeting, you guys will have Michael with Abdo coming to share a proposed plan, what they found with the market, and what that looks like for us financially, and how that fits in with our budget. So those are some different things that we'll work with as we get the final levy. But so for the prelim, we set it at 7.1.
Yeah, it's, I think in the past, we've always tried to teeter right around 3 to 3.5% landed or ended.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll get there this year, but, I think we all know that costs have went up pretty much everywhere you turn. So,
And to clarify, we can come down from the 7.1,
Yep.
we cannot go up from there, so we
Correct.
normally do the preliminary a bit higher than what our anticipated target is, so that we can come down when we get all of our final information, so. Thank you.
that's a good summary, thank you for presenting that. Any discussions for the city manager on that resolution? We've kind of talked about this at a couple of our budget meetings, so I guess I don't have anything. I will look for a motion on that resolution, please.
I make a motion approving the resolution approving the preliminary 2024 tax levy for collection in 2025.
I will second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the preliminary 2024 tax levy for collection in 2025. And once again, Carolina will have a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Burrows,
Yes.
Colleton,
Yes.
Mayor Wallers.
Yes. Okay, the second resolution is a resolution authorizing the updating of the city fee schedule for residential rental property, registration and licensing ordinance fees effective January 1st of 2025. Becca, I'll turn it back over to you if you wanna just highlight. I think we all have that in our packet, of course, what the increases are and percentages and all that good stuff, but maybe just a quick highlight for the people in the listening audience.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, the HRA representatives were here to go over what we need in order to, expense out what they do for us in doing our rental ordinance and making sure everyone is in compliance. So the fees would go up from 75 to 95 for one unit, and then from 15 to 30 for any additional. A license transfer fee, so if it transfers from one landlord to another, from 30 to 55. If there's an interim requested inspection, it's going from 75 to 95. And then missed appointments for inspections are 75 to 95. And then, if someone wants an inspection before a property is registered as a rental, there will be a $95 instead of $75 fee, but would be applied to that license. So those are some of the changes. And another change that they made is the failure of first inspection as a result of deficiencies included in a common fail list, because landlords get that list before they come and inspect, is $50.
So basically, the increase is to cover our cost, what we pay out for inspections, all the processing. It's not a moneymaker for us. We've actually had to pay out additional money last year to pay for the inspections that were done. So this increase basically is covering the cost of our expenses to have the inspections processed and done.
Yep.
To reimburse a second entity. I mean, it's, so, yeah, the only thing I will say is at some point, in here, they have a lot of expenses. And I'm thinking of the landlord, so they pay $95 every year, but only get inspected one time a year. And then if there's an interim requested inspection, they have to pay another $95. Well, they've already paid $95 that year, so I'm just not, I don't know. And maybe I'm looking at this differently and I'm just not getting it past.
You're
Every 4 years,
inspected
isn't
once
it?
every 4 years.
Yeah, but they pay
But you
$95.
just said once a
Every
year.
year.
Oh, yeah, but
But
they
it's-
pay every year.
Yes, and we
95
discussed that
percent.
in our meeting on do we need to have inspections more often, if that's,
But at the request of, at the expense of the landlord who already paid the $95 that year? On interim requested inspections, and that maybe that's just a policy thing and I'm just getting hung up on it,
but the only ones that can request that would be the property owner or the tenant, correct? It's those two.
well, yeah, I don't know. who
Parties
else
that
would
can
wanna
request it.
Request it.
Well, if a neighbor had an issue with something, but that's the two parties that can request it, so it's not like you're gonna have a potential of 6 people saying, I think that one there needs to be inspected again. It's gotta come from one of those two parties.
I'm just trying to figure out why would they have to pay another $95 when, that's part of their expenses, isn't it, in inspecting a property?
Yeah, they say on that interim request inspections, that's done by is that law enforcement then, enforcement officer's time?
No, it would be it would still
I
be
would
the same
think that would be
person.
the inspector.
Same person?
Building
Yeah.
inspector?
No, not the
No.
building
No.
inspector.
Enforcement
Bob
or the
State.
inspection for the rental inspection.
It's the guy who already inspected it the first time. So,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
She has an asterisk by it, so I'm wondering if that's not if they want to be inspected before, and then it says that goes towards their registration fee.
So you're saying then you could only really get charged once? Kinda?
No, it means if you haven't registered your property as a rental, you could have it inspected first to see if it's worth it to have as a rental is what it would be. So if you had a piece of property and you're like, I think I want this inspected to see what I would have to do.
Oh, I see.
And then, so if then you decide to
Okay.
register it, then
So
that
it's-
would go, that money would go to your.
I get it,
Yep.
yep, I follow
Does
you.
that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does, so
Okay.
it's, if you don't wanna wait till the annual,
Well, if you don't
Inspection.
want it,
Well, it'd be if you have like a new property.
Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
gotcha, yep,
yep, and
Follow
you're
ya.
not sure if you want it if you're gonna rent it out or not yet,
right,
depending upon what that inspection would show.
okay, I get it, yep, that makes sense. Okay, any other discussion on that resolution? Hearing none, I guess I'll entertain a motion on that, please.
I will move approval of a residential rental property registration and licensing ordinance fee increase as listed, effective 1/1/2025.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, thank you. Now we will have a roll call vote on that resolution authorizing the updating of the city fee schedule, please, Carolina.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Gollison,
Yes.
Mayor Wolters.
Yes. Okay, the last one we have before us is the added item C, resolution adopting the preliminary 2025 budget for the city of Morris. And once again, I'll have Becca maybe just highlight a couple things.
Yeah, so kind of like I just stated, general fund budget goes up about 5%, going up to $5,056,716 over last year's budget. The preliminary total city budget has gone down 7% to $13,915,958. And then with this, we are calling the Truth in Taxation hearing on December 10th at 6 o'clock here in the City Council chambers.
What's that date again? I'm sorry.
December 10th,
Okay,
and it says 23, and it should say 24 on the resolution.
okay.
So
December
that
10th,
would be after our first meeting in December.
Yep.
December 10th, you said.
Yes.
It's my anniversary. I can't forget it. Okay. Any questions for City Manager Schrupp on that resolution? You know, you look at the total budget, 13 some odd million, and with the help of local government aid, it gets us down into a manageable number. So I think just so everybody out there listening, you know, our taxable levy is,
The government aid goes to the general fund in the library.
right,
Mm-hmm.
so that helps bring that
Yep,
overall number down.
yep. And then our water, sewer, garbage, that is all funded through the utilities. So the utility, rates and what people use, so.
Okay. Yeah, thank goodness for local government aid. Any other discussion for our city manager? Hearing none. We shall have roll call, vote please on that resolution adopting the
You need a
preliminary.
motion and a second.
Oh, we need a motion and a second, I'm sorry. Once again, I got ahead of myself. We'll need to entertain a motion on that resolution.
I'll move on that resolution adopting the preliminary 2025 budget for the city of Morris.
I will second.
There we go, thank you. We got a motion and a second. to approve that resolution adopting the preliminary 2025 budget for the city of Morris. And then once again, Carolina will have roll call vote on that resolution, please.
Councilmember Markgraf,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Coniston,
Yes.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes. Okay, next up on our agenda is our city manager's newsletter.
So I just kind of wanted to start out with the discussion we had last time about moving the meeting to a Wednesday. I did hear from the park board. I talked to Ann and she was gonna send an email out to her board to see, so kind of waiting back on if the library board is willing to move their meeting. I did have Zach reach out saying that he does have a conflict with Wednesdays, so thought I'd bring it back since we may have some conflicts with council and the library board hasn't met to discuss yet, but maybe wanted to circle back and see if this is still something we want to look at pursuing, if there's a different day, if
My thing was, during the school year, my kids they attend Awana, and that starts at 6, and I'm responsible for pickup and drop off. So that makes it a little bit more complicated. Not that it wouldn't necessarily work, just makes it more complicated for me. So.
And I don't know, Wednesdays are, I mean, I'm pretty open myself, but, you know, I think again, we gotta kind of consider what is in the best interest of the public too. And, you know, sometimes it's hard for us to judge what that is, but we know Wednesdays are typically church nights for some, and so we could potentially run into that conflict with the general public, so, you know, I'm certainly willing to be flexible, but you know, the meetings have been on Tuesdays for, I guess, since I've been on council, and there's always gonna be probably times when it's gonna inconvenience us sitting in these seats, but, you know, sometimes you gotta, I don't know, just one of those things, but.
I guess the library board, they were all fine moving to another Wednesday, but
Oh, okay.
it's not gonna, I mean, if this is not gonna work for everybody, then I don't know if it's worth pursuing any longer. I don't know.
do we want to maybe look at like a Monday?
I think what we ran into with Mondays is when you have holidays, you know, because sometimes holidays fall on a weekend and then people have that Monday off, and it's, you know, I don't want to bash holes and everything, but, you know, that's something you're going to run against. You're going to run up against that quite a bit, so I guess my personal feeling is on it, I hear what you're saying, that it'd be nice to try to take a look and accommodate everybody, but Tuesday nights have worked for us. And I think the public knows when our meetings are. They're the second, fourth Tuesdays, and we've got people trained in. And I don't know if I wanna retrain.
Then that's fine, but then, yeah, there may be, I guess we'll have to pick and choose what meetings then can be attended.
Well, we can try to, I think what we could take and entertain, I think, Kim, is not adding stuff, you know, to those Tuesday nights. If you know, getting to athletic events and things are important to all of us, which they are, I fully support that. If we could just maybe not pile on additional things after our regular Tuesday meeting, that might help us.
It's okay, it's fine, it was just it was a question and
Yeah.
it's not gonna work, so.
Okay. All right.
I don't like the reason though, cause we've always been on Tuesdays, that's like, well, let's not do anything different, cause we've always done it this way, and to me,
Right.
that's not a good reason to, it just wasn't gonna work for all council members, so that's probably the reason.
Okay.
Utility rate study. So we've been working on a utility rate study with Ellers, looking at our water, sewer, and storm rates, going through our budget, looking at big capital items that we're going to have in the next 10 years. In those discussions, we've talked about possibilities of adding a few big water sewer users. Both users that we've talked about are going to be bringing in higher levels of produces, which are like BODs and phosphorus. So in talking with Ellers about our rates and how things impact in our budgets and this and that, they did state that they do look at and do a little more in-depth study with higher users and how that impacts cities with their ponds, with their water usage, with chemical costs. They thought it would be about $20,000. Still waiting on a quote from them. But as we look at possibly adding and expanding some of our other businesses in town too, it might not be a bad idea to look at having them do a study and see how this impacts us, how it would really impact our ponds, how it would impact our budgets. So my question would be, do we want to look at putting it either in the budget for next year, looking at trying to find money this year, and then if we want to do it this year, do we ask those businesses who are wanting to come in if they would help cover some of that cost?
Well, if we're gonna have the extra expense because of discharge from a particular business, I think they should be willing to help pay for the additional cost. I mean, we can't expect everybody else to have to absorb that because the expense of somebody new that's creating more of the things that are gonna cost us to treat in our ponds. So I think it should get passed on and expect them to help pay for it if they're gonna be creating the extra expense for us to process it.
Help pay for the
Study.
study.
The study.
That's what we're asking.
So this is just a study to see what kind of impact they would have on our facilities.
Good speech. My question would be if they said, never mind. I mean, that they didn't want to pay for the study, and what would we do then?
I don't know, but I assume that one would say yes. I don't know for sure about the other. But it's, I wouldn't put all of it on them because we do have other big users in town that we'd want to get with this study too.
Well, that's why I mean, the
So I
study would
wouldn't,
be
I
helpful
wouldn't
to the
ask,
city.
right. Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm just saying, if you ask them to pay for a portion of it and they said, never mind, what is it? Are we not gonna do it? So I guess I'm looking at, it benefits the city to do this study for water usage, whether these two companies decide to go forward or not, I don't know. I guess
So you'd like us to maybe try and find some funds.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Kim's saying there. I mean, it's really to our benefit at this point to find out, the impact. So therefore, I think we should probably shoulder that burden ourselves for now.
Can I interject quick? Important takeaway from that meeting was, without these additional possible new users who are outside city limits, we would not be near capacity. So our ponds are fine as is. This is about adding potential 2 new users that would impact our ponds' future.
So you wouldn't necessarily do the study because everything would be fine? That's what I was at, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, would it be
Oh, okay.
fine?
Will these 2 new users put us at capacity with their ponds?
Possibly.
Very close.
And that's,
So-
and
That's
that's
what the
one of the
study would
things
show.
we're
That's the
gonna be
study.
finding too. Mm-hmm.
They'll be using water then, right? City water.
One would.
So we could capture some of that back with the ink, with the water
Yes.
usage. Do you have any idea how much?
But with that will
water?
come extra chemicals and things too, but yes. Oh goodness, it was a lot. I can't remember exactly how much.
If it's a
but it
high
was lot.
volume user, I mean, that would, of
Have you
course.
done this in the past? Where you've
I
tried?
have never done
Okay.
this before.
Yeah, as she's saying, if they're gonna be getting our treated water, we have expense to provide them the water. It's not like it's just coming out of the ground free and we're selling it. It's a
Yeah, it's not,
100% profit. We have expense, the
Yep, I
manpower,
get
the
that.
chemical of the water also, so.
but we have the capacity in our water treatment plant to handle it,
Mhm.
so that's the other concern. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to try to find some money. And if we can't, then we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
I'd agree with that. If we can provide some assistance to try to figure it out, to help a company expand, it's gonna create the jobs and help in our community, yeah, to figure out where we're going with it. And if they do, and we have an added expense, then it's gonna get added, but to do the study, yeah, I think we can find somehow to pay for that, or
Okay.
should.
Okay. Moving on, just some information, Joe and I, and then, Jamie from Bolton and Mink have been working, with Verizon, trying to come up with a plan. They'd like to do some modifications to their towers that are up there. So we're kinda working together to, while they want some modifications, they're wanting to bolt and weld onto our water tower. So with that, we're trying to kind of take that opportunity to relook at our contract and add some different language to it. So we've been working a few months on this. They've gotten their attorneys involved, so just some information that's some of the behind the scenes things going on. Russ and I met with our regional MnDOT members. We discussed the sidewalks along Atlantic. Jeff is working on an environmental letter to start, and then see how much the cost impacts would be to do some environmental cleanup for that sidewalk project. That's scheduled for 2026. So we'll see if they can help us with any dollars that would come out of that, because that's not part of the grant that was given. We talked about what they need from our building inspector if we approve any buildings or structures that are on the MnDOT highway. They will be sending information on programs for pedestrian funding to see if we qualify for any different sidewalk grants. The Small Cities Infrastructure Grant just opened on Monday. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but that may be something we could possibly use for different things. And then the last thing we discussed were the sidewalks along the highway. So they have been, they've had a lot of turnover there, so with that, they've been looking at their policies more closely and trying to make sure that those are being followed. So nothing on the sidewalks in those businesses downtown. They can't have anything on the sidewalks without a permit. So they wanted to kind of get the word out there that if any storefront wants to put anything out on the sidewalks, just to connect with John from MnDOT, and they can get a permit to have things on the sidewalk there. We did talk with that. They had mentioned trees, so we said, oh, okay, well, we're looking at putting in trees there, and they said we'd have to do a permit, but that we should have an agreement with them for when we first did it. So we haven't been able to find that, so John was gonna be looking to see if he could find one, so.
So we have to get a new permit for trees that we've had in there in the
Yes,
past.
yep,
Wow,
yep.
that makes sense.
Every time we put a new tree in there, we'll have to get a permit. So if we take a tree down and
So
put
we
a
wouldn't
tree up,
be,
we'd have
there's
to.
no such thing as being grandfathered in? I mean, they were there, we planted them, there's some trees that are,
Just now they're gonna follow their own rules.
So,
When I was thinking of the things on sidewalks, occasionally businesses, like Crazy Days will put
Mhm.
stuff out
so
there.
she gets a permit.
Oh, she
So
does,
I
okay.
asked about that,
Yeah.
and he's, today actually when he called, and yeah,
So
they've been getting a
Sarah's
permit.
getting permits,
Mhm.
good, okay.
Mhm.
Cause I thought, well, maybe some of our businesses need
Don't
to know
know.
this
Mhm.
information.
Yep,
Cause sometimes there's also signs out,
Yeah, he
If
said
you,
those can't be out there unless there's
they,
permit.
so they,
Mhm.
I wonder if that should be something that's passed, I mean, Sarah already knows about that, but just so she can pass it on to her chamber members, who are most of them on up and down that sidewalk, so that she can let them, a number for them to reach out to.
And a process for the
Yes.
permit, the fee, is there?
Is there, I don't know if there's.
I mean,
I don't know.
it'd be nice to know if I wanna put something on the sidewalk in front of my business, I have to pay, and how much lead time do I need?
How about like the flower pots that are out there already, that's.
Yep, need that too. Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
And then I also see when they talk about, approving any buildings or structures that are on a MinDOT highway.
So they don't approve it, they just have, so they have their own process, so like, when a building is getting redone, they look over the site plan and then make their comments too, and those have to be followed too. So they're looking at it from their right of ways, what they need, what their roads require before they sign off on it. So they kinda want us all to work together. So before our building inspector does a final, yes, move ahead, they've received MinDOT's comments.
And
For the
that's
site
usually been
plan.
done in the past? Is that any new building?
It
or just
hasn't,
like
no,
all
just
these
anything that's
resurfacing?
getting redone.
So even a
Yep.
remodel, like a
All this
refacing,
remodel of these buildings that
Yes.
just happened?
So anything that happens,
that's what I was thinking.
anything that happens on a business, so whether it's their awning, or and a sign, if it's on the highway, they need a permit.
On the sidewalk on the highway?
Well, any of their business, yeah,
So even the fascia and the awning and stuff.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Can we move Main Street?
man, can they make anything
Switch
more
it,
difficult?
So,
Well, yeah, yeah, actually.
Hmm.
so, I will get some information to the chamber.
That's a good, I mean, cause
Yeah.
not everybody's gonna be listening to this,
Mhm.
but she can give more direction to her, to
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
members who are most all businesses.
Yeah. We
Mm.
talked at the last meeting about a junior council, so I have reached out to the high school. We already have 4 that are interested. I told Greenwald that he could leave it open until maybe November, and then we'd look at maybe that first meeting in December, doing interviews with the students to have them come aboard then at the one we pick in January. So,
Would we do that as a part of the meeting or secondarily? The reason I ask is because we just said truth and taxation for the 10th.
6 o'clock. You are right. I think you should probably do it as a work session. So we could maybe do it a different day if we didn't want to do it the same day as the meeting and have a really long night.
10, and then the 24th of December, is anything going on the 24th of December?
I think they can't sell liquor, or did we,
Probably move it to the 25th, that'd be a Wednesday.
Wait a second.
Yeah. December's meeting, that was gonna be a discussion in probably November, but yeah, December's meetings, that last week is pretty full of holidays.
How much time do you think it'll take, I mean, with the junior council implementing it and that kind of thing?
If there's 4 of them,
We'd have to
I
interview
think
them?
you'd want to.
Yeah, make it,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't have to have a ton of questions maybe, so maybe 15, 20 minutes per kid. They're not gonna probably take tons of time answering questions.
Yeah. well, I think it's worth taking the time, obviously,
Yeah.
we're
Mhm.
going
Yeah.
down this path because we want to engage the young adults and get them more involved in city council, so I think it's worth the time, but
Mhm.
we can figure out when to do it.
And we have some time. It'll go fast, but we have some time.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe we could come in, could we start
Early?
early that night?
We could.
Just maybe say half an hour earlier if we could, if that works into everybody's schedule, but
Be longer than that if we're talking 4 at 15 minutes, that's an
Yeah.
hour.
it'd have to be an hour almost.
I can do that quick.
I mean, that could work, 'cause
That should make that work.
that's Christmas Eve day, right?
If you do it when?
We're not doing.
No,
it.
Oh,
We
I'm
can't-
sorry, the 10th.
Yeah.
The 10th, yeah, we can't do it
We
Christmas Eve.
can't have a
Go
meeting
tell
on the
Sherry.
24th.
Go tell
Yeah,
Sherry that.
Sarcasm taken way too serious.
I'm gonna get a bone for Christmas.
I was gonna say, Sherry.
Roof.
Well,
So we could come in an hour earlier on the 10th is what you're kind of, we're thinking maybe at this point?
Or close it early and have it done in November.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's a
Yep.
whole month that we can say we're gonna close it October 31st and, or even November 8th and then the 12th. Yeah, I know that's Thanksgiving week too.
Yep.
But that'd be a lot better than trying to get
Yeah.
back in with December, I think, if we could do it.
do it the 26th of November.
26th of November, that sounds like a better deal.
Or, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Or do we back it up to 12th in case somebody's gone for Thanksgiving week too? To November 12th would be the first
What's there's a highlighted green, which means that it's a holiday.
veterans.
Oh. Duh.
That's public people know that those holidays.
You gonna
go
be
hard.
deer hunting that week?
No, the 12th is, oh, I never thought, no, I
So November
I think
12th.
that is, that probably that full weekend there is deer hunting if,
Mhm.
15th, 16th, and 17th is when I'm gonna be hunting, second weekend.
you start there and I'm gonna hunt that whole week, so.
If you call what I do hunting anyway, I don't know.
Once it gets dark, I have to quit, so I guess,
26 works.
I like the 26th, that'll give, if they get
Make-
things
make
finished
a-
up at the school there by the 1st of November and gives you 3-4 weeks to get things in order to,
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Alright. And then the planning commission, their meeting, they talked about a possible rezone and then looked at the county's, cannabis ordinance. It's the one we looked at yesterday. They'll get a model ordinance at their next meeting. We'll start putting some stuff together on times and how many. Looked like we needed the zones, the times we're allowing it, and, and where, yeah, the zone, so. Looks like that's gonna be their big things if we're gonna designate our authority to the county, so. Yeah, so we'll be working on that at the next meeting. I did mention to them about the food trucks that we had the discussion about at this meeting. I didn't have ordinances for them, I didn't have time to pull a bunch together to compare on what they wanted to do. They did talk about, if they wanted to be the ones to say they couldn't be so far away from a business, and not have some of that competition. So, we'll just have to kind of see where it goes. At the next meeting, I did tell them I would bring the different cities' food truck ordinances so they could, see them and take a look, and we could see if we wanted to put something in place. So those are the two big things. I did get a question about someone wanting to vacate a street. So I'm gonna be giving him, kind of the steps on what to do with that. So they'll be hearing probably all of those and maybe need a work session for their cannabis stuff, so.
vacating a street, is that a residential or a business or?
So it's over by a business, but it's not really, the owner owns all on both sides, and actually, it's not in city limits, so I don't know if it's ours to vacate or not. So there's a lot of questions there, but,
Okay, I was just curious,
Mhm.
but more research or more info to
Mhm.
be gathered.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the city manager on her newsletter?
The one thing that, and you're gonna have to forgive me, but for the DOT stuff, we talked about sidewalks specifically out on Atlantic. Was there a timeline? I don't remember if there was a timeline allocated for those funds or not. They had to be spent by a certain date
You
or
know,
not?
I'm not sure about that. They just say the project was scheduled for 2026.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was the only year we could use them in,
Sure.
but that's when they said that the project is, but I can find out.
I know it was a longer term project, I just didn't remember if there was had to be spent a certain amount at a certain date or not.
Oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. We did get the $200,000 prize for our energy prize,
Ooh,
so.
home run.
Yeah,
Good
found that
deal.
out last week. So, yeah.
Where does that money, is that money? go?
So those dollars, when it was written, it was, hopefully the intent is to keep a sustainability coordinator position. Troy and I talked today, because we're interviewing next week for a new sustainability coordinator, and we talked about, kind of the length as we bring somebody in, how long, you know, we still have some, grant dollars for that position, plus the first prize money, and now this. And, it's a prize, so it can be used on anything, but the intent was to keep someone there, but depending on what the Morris model and how things are moving, or different projects, it could be used for something else.
So potentially we could use some of it maybe for an electric charging on our electric city transit bus.
For like solar,
For our new electric bus, for
For
a
the
solar
garage,
charging
yes.
on the garage. I mean, it's gonna get, from what I remember when I went to the meeting when they were talking about it, it was gonna get proportioned out amongst all the different parties involved with the school, the university, the county, the city, the different groups that are in it, but just, yeah, and I agree, we need to put the funding to get a coordinator to keep working on the things we've been working on, but if we can use some of those funds for that, I think would be an awesome project for us to do that.
If I recall, that
From-
was also gonna be, like, you got a, I don't wanna call it a rebate, but that helped to pay for that, so it was
Yeah.
mostly free.
But if we have to do
So-
some upfront money to make that work, and it sounded like they thought it would be a very fast payback, even on top of our share.
that is kind of what Griffin was thinking, that it would be about 100% paid. But yeah, if we needed any upfront costs, possibly. I can look into it.
Okay. Any other questions for the city manager off of her report? Hearing none, we shall move on to board updates. If anybody on the council has anything to report from their various boards, now would be the time for that.
Thank you for getting the minutes from our boards published here with our packets coming out to us, so it's nice to know what's going on and we can read and see, so everyone does, so for us to try to remember all the things that were discussed and to bring it back if somebody is taking minutes, which somebody should be, to have that provided to everybody.
On the chamber side of things, Moonlight Madness is October 24th, that's a Thursday. And then I was gonna just mention, Becca, are you in the loop on the new banner that the chamber is looking at? They're gonna use the city logo?
I
Have they
gave
communicated?
Geraldine the logo. That, all I know is they were thinking of banners with the city logo. And I
Yeah,
gave her the logo.
you gave it to Geraldine?
Mm-hmm.
That's for the,
Yeah.
okay, so that's to be used for Prairie Harvest Fest,
She
or
said the banners.
just the banners?
Yep, she said the chamber was looking at banners and needed the city logo.
Hey, so that's a chamber banner, yeah, so I
Mhm.
think they sent out different samples, just so everybody knows, and everybody kinda liked the city logo banner the best, so that was kinda the first choice. They just wanna update the banners, so, and I thought it'd be appropriate
The
to use
ones that
ours.
are on the streetlights?
Mhm.
Nice.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's kinda it there.
Your big weekend in Morse this weekend, your Prairie Harvest Festival at the fairgrounds.
A lot of stuff going on. I think there's advertising all over town. There's different schedules of events posted at different businesses, and yeah, it'll be fun. They have a demo derby, I think, Saturday night, and so they've added that this year, so that'll be kind of fun. And weather sounds perfect,
Yeah, nice.
so we hit a good one. We're not gonna have to worry about rain and all that good stuff, so be fun. Come on out and have some fun. Informational items, I guess, speaking of food trucks, I'll just pass these along to you. I just ran across this. It's some information. This was an article that came from Minnesota Cities, and that was out of the July-August issue. And you can just maybe read through it for what it's worth, just to give you an idea of kind of what some things that other cities have done with regards to food trucks. And I guess last week we spoke a little bit about it, and again, my intent is to not make this very restrictive, make it as user-friendly as possible, simple. In this article, they speak to the fee. I know Kim and I, we had talked about the fee part of it, and you don't want that to be a deterrent, and that's certainly my intent as well. They kind of recommend here $25 a time. So if you're just, say you're coming in to town for a one-time event, you go to City Hall, get your permit, $25, you're done. Or you can pay, for those that are repeat vendors, they can just pay an annual fee and be done, So like your Remexicos, those types of food trucks, they pay $300 a year or season, and then they're done, and you don't have to worry about getting another permit. So I just thought I'd give this to you just for reading, and I think we're kind of approaching the end of the food truck season. Obviously, fall's creeping in, but I think it's something for us to kind of consider. And maybe by next spring or something, if we decide to do something, we can come up with something that makes sense. Again, I don't want it to be a deterrent and scare people away and all that good stuff, but I just thought I'd provide that for you. All right, anything else to come before the council? If not, meeting adjourned.